I got some Marvel, I have some DC, I have a few independents to talk about. We got a nice mix of comic books on this week's episode of After the Poll. Fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. I'm your host, Mike Spiderslayer, always helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy. And guys, this is the video series where I take some of my most highly anticipated comic books and I see if they live up to the hype. And of course, I do my top 5 out of these comic books I read. Now, do these books hold up throughout the entire comic book week? Because I still have more comic books to read. Well, you can find out my definitive top 5 on my live stream that I do every Tuesday night, 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time. It's called Comic Book Weekly, where I team up with a couple of my best friends, Kat Comic Uno and Brant Fowler. We talk about the comic books a week's worth of news. We talk about our top 5 and most anticipated comics. So be there, guys. Tuesday nights, 10:15 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to seeing you there. All right, guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's get started with this week's episode. Coming in at number 8, and there is no surprise here, right? This is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 92, Point Beyond. Why this is just not its own separate issue like 93 to begin with, I have no idea. Maybe because Ben Reilly is not even in this book. Maybe because Spider-Man is not even in this book. This has to do with Colleen Wig and Misty Knight and Monica Rambeau. Now, the artwork in this book is actually, it's okay. It's not bad. We just get to see, Morbius and some lizard creature. We get to see Monica Rambeau use her powers. You get to see some miscellaneous villains in this book. You get to see Aaron Machine Man in this book do some weird stuff as well. It's bright, it's colorful, it's vibrant. It's not bad artwork, right? But the story, man, I can't. It's just, you're probably wondering, well, Mike, why do you review these Amazing Spider-Man books if they're so bad? Well, you guys know that I am the huge Spider-Man fan, and I make it a thing to review every Amazing Spider-Man book that comes out on this show when I do it. So that's why I review an Amazing Spider-Man book every single time, because it's my thing, man. I read every one of them. All right, so when it comes to this book, it's basically a continuation of our heroes going to the Beyond Corporation and destroying the villain's creation center, right? And Monica Rambeau comes across Aaron Machine Man for some reason, and they team up and they blow up all the place. And Maxine Danger's all pissed off at Monica Rambeau, going, "Why would you do this? You've betrayed me, blah, 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 blah." And you're kind of like, yeah, well, big deal. I don't care about you, Maxine Danger, because I got this weird star thing in my possession that you wanted from the very start, and I've been holding it away from you. And she's like, ugh, she's all pissed off. And then the next thing you wind up seeing is like Ben Reilly's at the end of the issue. He's all pissed off. He's also trying to get the Maxine Danger, trying to get his memories back. And it was just a nothing issue. It really was. It was just people fighting made-up villains to destroy the Villain Institute, where that could have been done in one issue, and it took 3 issues to do it. So if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man right now, don't waste your money on the Beyond Point issues. I do, because I'm just a completionist of the series. Coming in at number 7, the next book we're going to be talking about is from Image Comics. I was highly anticipating this one. This is Slumber issue 1. Now, this book is about a person who's like this dream detective that is hired to go out and take the nightmares out of your dreams so you can sleep peacefully, right? Pretty interesting concept. Has like a Nightmare on Elm Street effect or Inception effect. You kind of don't know what's real, what's fake at certain times. The artwork is pretty good, so when you're in the serious state, you can see that things are kind of good, but then when you go into the dream state, obviously you can see things get wacky, and that's what is creative about the artwork here, because dreams are very weird, right? So in this book, it really shows you how a dream can be messed up. So I liked how the artwork was in this book. Now, It's kind of confusing at sometimes, but because you don't know what's real and what's fake. But we have this person that is, again, this dream eater. She kills people's nightmares within their dreams. There's these murders that are also actually happening here, and seeing her go into somebody's mind and kill the dreams was actually hysterical. There is a light humor to this book where it's supposed to be a little bit darker, but there is this particular creature called the Dark Stalker or something like that, that ruined our dream detective's life, and she has come back, or this creature has come back, and is looking like it's wreaking havoc throughout the world or through people's dreams, again possessing other people and whatnot. And our dream detective, she wants to go out after this thing, right? And that's basically what I got out of this issue. Again, there were some points that it was a little confusing, a little bit weird, but nevertheless, I definitely think it warrants an issue 2 just to see the direction of this book. I don't say it was the best book I ever read. I was actually hoping that would be a little bit more scary, maybe a little bit more gory. But it was an interesting read, and I'm going to give it another shot here. So yeah, Slumber issue 1, we'll see what happens with it. Moving up the countdown to number 6, we have an always entertaining book. This is the Scorched. This is issue 3. This is the Avenger type of book where we get all the spawns teaming up together to do battle in a mission, and this one has them doing battle against Russia. They had the plague spawn and whatnot, and you also get to learn a little bit more about Soul Crusher. That character was introduced a few issues back, and we got to see the original Soul Crusher. Now we get to see who the new Soul Crusher is in this book, and this character wants to work with all the spawns because I think it was the Russians, if I stand corrected, are the ones that are trying to open up the dead zones, and they built these machines to open up these dead zones. But what Soul Crusher is afraid of is that they're going to blow up the planet while doing it because it's an unnatural thing, and only Spawn himself is the one can open up these dead zones. This has been an ongoing theme of what's going on throughout the entire Spawn series. We get a little bit of a story about Reaper and all these different kinds of characters, but again, this really focused heavily on Plague Spawn. Now, this artwork in this book is really good. It's bright, it's vibrant. This book always has a lot of action. This reminds me so much of Venom or Carnage when you see the characters in this book. It's awesome, man. It's so well done. But I'm looking forward to the direction of this to where this book goes, and this unlikely team up of the book. So definitely a strong recommendation. Did not crack the top 5 though, because some of my other books I really enjoyed. You are now entering the top 5. That's right, guys. I debated on Scorched and Detective Comics between the 5 and 6 spot because I pretty much like these books equally, but this story I actually enjoyed, and I thought the cliffhanger really kind of got me to say, oh, I'm looking forward to issue 12. I enjoyed it, and I love the action in this book. I love the return of Batman in this book, and I love the artwork in this book. I thought it was really well done. Batman looks great in here. All the action scenes look good. Facial expressions look good. And I just love now how at this point we're winding this whole thing down, and this is just an action book at this point, which is good. And I've enjoyed the overall pacing of this story. Do I feel like it's been a little bit long? Yeah, I think it has, because each week I'm kind of thinking, oh, this is it, and it still goes on. But it's 12 parts. This is issue 11, and in this issue you just get to see everyone scattered. You get to see the Bat family scattered, trying to get control of this tower. We see Scarecrow, who's in, the main villain now that's in charge. He winds up getting Psycho Pirate's Medusa mask so he can maybe control everybody while using his fear toxin, which I thought was a nice little twist in there. They're trying to get Psycho Pirate back on his feet, but he's lost so much blood, he's losing his powers. And just seeing the struggles between the good and the evil to gain control of Gotham, the tower, and everything else was actually a lot of fun. I had a good time reading this book, and I had a really enjoyable time looking at the artwork, like I said. But by the time we get to the end of this issue, we wind up going back to Arkham Tower 67 days that Arkham Tower has been erected, and so we know that the tower is still standing at this point. It looks like they regained control, and we learn that the mayor's wife winds up getting possession of Psycho Pirate's mask, and she wears the mask in this issue. So does she become the next Psycho Pirate? I don't know, but I thought that was a pretty cool cliffhanger, and something that I did not see coming. How does this whole thing conclude? Not sure. Again, I feel like I'm a minority here that doesn't enjoy this, that does enjoy this story. I've seen a lot of other reviewers on YouTube that don't enjoy this story, but I like it, man. I think it's good, and can't wait to see how it concludes. Coming in at number 4 goes to a pretty good comic book, guys. This is from Ablaze, and this is Life Zero issue 2. Originally, when I bought issue 1, I was like, oh, it's a zombie book. I like zombie books, and I love, Chiquetto's artwork. So I was like, how does he draw zombies? And just the book looks great. Look at the detail of like the intestines of a zombie going after the heroes in that van. And we get to see some of our main characters in here. There's some great facial expressions. You can feel the emotion and the pain when you're reading this comic book. It is so well done. Look at the detail that goes into the brains getting blown out and stuff. I mean, it's good, man. And right in the beginning, when you open up the book, you get to see this map, and this map obviously has a significance in the book when you learn what the mission is in this title. So in the last issue, we wound up seeing a strike force rescue their captain out of prison because there is a mission at hand. We wind up finding out that our main character, his name is Derek, and his ex-wife Laura assembled the strike force once again to rescue the captain so they can go out and rescue their daughter. Now, again, Laura and Derek are not married anymore, but they're coming together to rescue their daughter. And in the meantime, while you learn about this mission, there's this crazy adventure at hand of them escaping the prison that they rescued their captain at, going to a movie theater, coming up with this plan, while one of their fellow soldiers gets infected by the zombie plague or whatever it is, and then they're finding out that they have to kill one of their own, which is very sad. This book is awesome, man. I mean, it has a lot of similarities to The Walking Dead, but it's different at the same time, right? I mean, you got the guy who was rescued who has a wife, and they got to find the kid, like kind of like how Rick had to find Carl and stuff like that. But it's cool because it has a slightly different twist to it. You know that this zombie apocalypse was created by some chemical cloud or whatnot. So you have some kind of origin story there, and you get to feel the pain of when someone was lost and part of their group, which was done right? It wasn't really some shock value thing. I thought it was pretty cool, man. I like this book, and I love the story of where it's going, and now we have to go find the daughter, and what complications arise why they go find her. I don't know. We'll find out, but I recommend this book, guys. Number 3 on the list, we have one of my most anticipated comics of the week. That was World's Finest, issue 1. I was very excited to read this book because it's got Mark Waid on it, and Dan Mora's artwork is also always gorgeous. Now, what I liked about this book is that it had this tone that seems very familiar to me with older DC comics. I can't quite pinpoint it. I don't know. But it wasn't so dark. It wasn't so gloomy. And I love the interactions with Batman and Tim Drake. Here's some of the artwork in here. Maybe because the artwork was a little bit brighter. And I'm so used to reading Batman and it's always so dark. But it looks good, man. I loved all the characters in here. Great action in here also. I thought this would be my number 1 book, but there was a couple books that I liked better. And this book was awesome because you wind up getting to see Batman, Superman team up. And you wind up seeing Metallo, and you wind up seeing Poison Ivy team up. And Poison Ivy was kind of the distraction for Metallo's mission to inject Superman with red kryptonite. And he's basically transforming. He's just being poisoned. He can't control himself. He's hallucinating. And now Superman needs Batman's help more than ever. We get to see the introduction to the Doom Patrol in this book as well. And they're trying to help him too. And it looks like by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, it looks like that they're going to have to do surgery on Batman using regular kryptonite at the same time. So this seems like this is a very risky surgery, obviously, to try to get this red kryptonite out of him. But seeing Superman in pain and fighting for his life here and hallucinating was actually really cool. It brought you back to some of the people that he's fought in the past, like Zod and Lex Luthor. And it had like this, I don't know, it had this 90s vibe to it, I guess, a little bit. I enjoyed it, man. And I loved Tim Drake in this book. I thought he was so well done. There was a couple instances where they had some flashbacks in this book that I didn't care for, and it kind of messed up the pacing of the book a little bit. So that's why I think this fell a little bit lower on my list, but I quite enjoyed it, and I'm excited for another DC comic book to be on my pool that's not just straight Batman, right? So we'll see what happens going forward. Coming in at number 2 is Carnage issue 1. Now, I thought for sure this book was going to be my number 1 pick, but what held it back from being number 1 was a couple things. The price of the book. And normally I wouldn't mind paying that extra $1 if you get the extended main story, but we got a couple extra stories in here that really weren't needed, right? And I got so immersed into the main story that it was a page turner. I got lost. I didn't know what time of day it was. And that's when a book really captures you, right? And I love that. But then you get to the end of it and it's like, it's over. And then you get this backup story. You're like, shit, I don't want the backup stories. Like, even though the backup story was done by David Michelini, which I really enjoy, I wanted the main story because that's where I'm going to be reading going forward, right? So let's talk about this artwork in this book. I thought this book was really well done. It definitely had kind of like an indie vibe. It was very gory at times. Yeah, I mean, you get to see people definitely, you know, being strapped to beds, but here's a part where it's a little bit more blood and gore. It definitely kind of pushed the envelope a little bit. I thought Carnage looked really cool in this book, and this was really a kind of a detective book, right? Trying to find the mystery out about this guy who likes to mutilate people, and he takes after his dad, who actually was a mortician and liked to beautify people, and he died of leprosy, and it was very dark, you know. But you get this story about this detective that's trying to find this guy by the name of Kenneth Neely. He's taking after his dad. He likes to murder people, and he leaves his stamp. And he idolizes Carnage. He looks up to him as he's a god, and he wants to be the next host for Carnage. So he leaves his mark everywhere, hopefully hoping that Carnage will come and again be his next host. But seeing some of the stuff and the mutilation that happens in this book was crazy, right? right? And as you get to learn about the detective in this comic by the name of John Shade, you get to see him come ever so closer to finding out who the murderer is. And by the time you get to the end of the book, he goes to this crazy location, right? Now, the cool thing about this was the interactions between Carnage and this guy, Kenneth, when they meet each other, and how this dude, Kenneth, like, wants to be Carnage's host. And Carnage is like, I don't know if I really need a host anymore, because he's found a way to tap into Hydro Man's powers to where he can absorb his water molecules, and it gives him life to sustain himself without having a host. So somebody that's going to be Carnage's next host, it looks like it's going to have to really rise to the occasion. However, Carnage allows this guy to tag side by side with him to go to some other weird place that we don't know of as of yet. And our detective finds out where everything is happening, where Carnage is actually at, and he's kind of like, oh shit, at the end. And it kind of just ends right there, and you're like, man, I can't wait for issue 2. Really loved the book. Love the mystery aspect, love the gore aspect, love how this guy is trying to be the next host, love the creativity of Carnage surviving without a host. I thought it was really cool, man. Definitely recommend this one, especially if you're on the fence about symbiote books in general. You're like, I'm tired of these. This was a really good one, guys. Coming in at number 1, you guys might be a little bit surprised on this one, and we have Nightwing. This is issue 90. This book checked off all the boxes for me this week, guys. Yes, it was another team up book, and that was my issue with this series, is because every week it's a new, or every month it's a new person that he's teaming up with. But this team up makes sense, and it has to do with the main storyline that's going on, so that's okay. And the team up between Wally West and Dick Grayson was priceless. It makes sense. They worked together in the past. The artwork is not the same artist, but it has a very similar feel and effect that Tom Taylor is going for when he writes this book, and I loved it. There was lots of action right from the start, suspense. The team up and the interaction, again, between these two characters is what made this book for me. Seeing Dick Grayson being targeted and his building being targeted with all the other people that he lives in there was quite interesting, because we get Blockbuster, who's obviously in control of everything. Once Dick Grayson dead, he sends this drone over to destroy his building because he knows he lives there, and you get to see Dick Grayson get alerted. He has to get everyone out of there. Very heroic. Even though this was a very serious moment, it made it a little bit lighthearted at the same time when Dick had to rescue this guy that didn't have his hearing aids in, and this old man is a little bit senile going, why are you in here stealing my hearing aids? You know, it's kind of funny. But at the same time, we wind up getting Wally, who comes in, finds out that the building was being attacked, saves Dick, and he brings Dick back to Keystone City, because when you look at it, Dick Grayson hasn't had a moment to rest, and him coming back to Keystone City, resting at Wally's place, was actually a lot of fun. And what the artist did in this book was really showcase Wally's powers, and that was top notch for me. It's like one panel they're in Bloodhaven, the next panel they're in Wally West's apartment, which I thought was so cool, man. And so when they did stuff like that, that's when the book really shined for me. And overall, they're trying to find out, obviously, who wants Dick Grayson dead, who else is attached to this. Barbara Gordon gets captured, and then we wind up finding out that another person that's behind killing or trying to kill Dick Grayson was KG Beast, which is the one that put the bullet in his head to begin with that made him Rick Grayson. I thought it was really cool, man. I love this book. And again, what made this book was the team up between those two characters. Team up books work, but you gotta have the right characters to make it that good team up, and it still dealt with that main story, like I said. So this one got back on track, and definitely a recommend for this week. So will these books hold up, guys? Well, I still have a few more to read. This wasn't the largest comic book week, But I still have King Spawn issue 8 to read, Reign issue 3, Silver Coin issue 10, Beginning War, Trial of the Watcher, and Playthings issue 1. So will any of these books overtake that top 5? Like I said, find out Tuesday night. Guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell. Speaking of content, I'll leave you more content right here. In fact, it's my comic book day haul. If you guys haven't checked out what I picked out altogether yet, maybe you just did. There's a special thing in there. Click on it. Check it out, right? And guys, as always, keep buying, keep collecting, but most importantly, please, always read your comics. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you real soon. Bye.